Europe is home to some of the greatest roller coasters in the world. We often get distracted since America is home to the biggest, the baddest, the tallest, and the fastest roller coasters out there, but we also gotta look at the argument of quality or quantity. When it comes to the roller coasters across the Atlantic, quality is the name of the game. I was lucky enough to spend 3 weeks in Europe earlier this summer, exploring 9 different countries and visiting 20 different amusement parks, and today I'm going to rank my 25 favorites. Now, I wasn't able to ride every coaster out there, so some names like Wodan Timber Coaster, Shambhala, and Expedition G-Force will not be on this list, but we were able to ride a majority of the best roller coasters this country has to offer. So, let's get straight into it. Kicking it off, we have 1 out of 5 roller coasters at Phantasialand. That's right, this park alone takes up 20% of this list. And for a park with only 6 coasters, that is just insanely impressive. Crazy Bad's truly shocked me. It's a long Vekoma family coaster that has VR. However, it's executed perfectly. The VR is so well done, and I love this ride's wacky theme. The ride is stupidly long. It has 3 lift hills and a track length of over 3,800 feet. It felt like it was never going to end, and I was not complaining. It doesn't have much thrill to it, but this coaster is just plain good fun. And I would truly take another ride on this over rides like Osiris, Tornado, and even Goliath. Heading over to Denmark, we have Lynet at Farup Summerland. This hidden gem Gerstlauer launch coaster just packs an insane punch. The launch is super snappy, and this ride is packed with non-stop action from start to finish. The top hat and airtime hill are insanely intense, the inversions are a lot of fun, and this ride really is just relentless from start to finish. Even though it's on the shorter side, it delivers one of the best launch coaster experiences you can find. Continuing the trend of Phantasialand, we have Colorado Adventure. This ride is also just good fun. It's a long and smooth Vekoma mine train that just keeps the action coming. The first half feels like your everyday mine train, but then that second half takes place in pitch black darkness where the ride just feels out of control, and it ends with some intense helixes and some surprising airtime moments. This coaster was just a huge surprise, and I cannot wait to experience it again soon. Here's another ride that blew me away, Anubis the Ride over at Plopsaland, Japan. This other Gerstlauer launch coaster packs a crazy punch. The layout is the exact same as Daredevil Dive in Six Flags Over Georgia, shockingly. However, instead of starting with the vertical lift and beyond vertical drop, it starts with the powerful LSM launch and a crazy vertical top hat that gives an amazing view of the park and a legendary airtime pop. Plus, the ride takes the layout 4 miles per hour faster than Daredevil Dive, and it is noticeable. Anubis is an absolute blast, and it truly is the hidden gem in that park. Lost Gravity is a ride that has always fascinated me. Since it was the first Big Dipper by Mock Rides, it is by far one of the weirdest layouts out there, and yet it's an incredible experience. The queue line for the ride was amazing enough, and the ride experience is even crazier. The first drop is something else, and this ride packs in a ton of crazy ejector moments with some solid hang time. If you sit on an end seat, you'll get a crazier ride experience, but it will be quite shaky. Those middle seats throughout the ride were butter smooth and truly made it a coaster worth remembering. Stunt Fall at Parque Warner Madrid is a very simple ride. Drop, cobra roll, loop, spike, and do it all again backwards. It's a simple boomerang. However, this ride is insane. The average Vekoma boomerang is fun, but it's overdone and nothing special. This ride puts any boomerang to shame. This alone was my first giant inverted boomerang. And wow, those spikes are massive, and the vertical drops feel absolutely insane. Plus the forces on the ride are so powerful, it's truly unexplainable. And it's much smoother than your average boomerang as well. So you not only have a better ride experience, but a much more powerful and a much more intense one as well. It's such an incredible ride model that I wish there were more of. Colossus at Hyde Park is a special ride for me. It was my 300th roller coaster. And even though it didn't live up to all the hype, it was still an incredible ride. The airtime in the back row was just never ending, and the ride was really smooth. While the pacing could have been better, the theming was great, the effects gave the ride something memorable, and obviously the airtime is what made this ride something special. Without a doubt, the best coaster in the park. I know this may be a surprise, but yes, just one up in Colossus is the other European prefab, with Balder at Liseberg. While this ride is just airtime hill and bank turn 6 times in a row, the airtime is still really good, with some decent pops of Flowjector over each and every one of those hills. Plus, the head choppers are also really good. It's a smooth wooden coaster that may be repetitive, but it does pack a really good punch and delivers from start to finish. Monster at Groenland is probably the most unique invert out there. The way they placed it into this park is wild, and the ride experience is amazing. The inversions feel so graceful, and it's one of the smoothest inverts I've ridden. This just has little bursts of intensity here and there, and some pops of airtime hidden throughout its layout, which makes it one of my all-time favorite inverts. And just one-upping it is my favorite invert from the trip, Black Mamba at Phantasialand. This intense invert has forceful and snappy inversions, a beautiful setting, and a fun, graceful overall experience. All the bank turns at the end just leave you questioning what is even happening, and the fact that this whole ride is surrounded by rockwork and beautiful scenery just adds to the experience. It's always been considered one of the best inverts, and now after riding it, I agree. This was by far one of the biggest surprises on the entire trip. I love Big Thunder Mountain over here at home, but this one just took it to a whole other level. Even though the second half is the exact same, the first half is one of the craziest airtime pops you'll find at a Disney resort, and the finale for this ride is just unforgettable. Once you enter that tunnel, you'll find yourself descending at speeds up to 40 miles per hour in pitch black darkness, and it just blew my mind. Without a doubt, the best mine train I've ever ridden. Now this is where we start getting to the really good rides. Paten is just a blast. Getting to ride an Intamin Megalite was just absolutely surreal, and it did not disappoint. The airtime is so good, with consistent moments of Flowjector throughout every hill. The Twisted Airtime Hill sequence is one of my all-time favorites. It's just constantly whipping you back and forth, giving you strong ejector pops over each and every hill. While this ride may not be that thrilling, it still shows that smaller coasters can still pack a vicious punch. Wildfire is just such a cool roller coaster. It's definitely the smoothest RMC Woody out there, with one of the best first drops you can find on any roller coaster. That Zero-G Stall 2 is just one of my favorite inversions of all time. The whole ride is just non-stop action, and it's just beautiful to watch off-ride. Plus, the view on top of this coaster is something else. While it may not be RMC's best creation, it's still a phenomenal wooden coaster, and it also shows how far RMC has come. Phonics is the definition of fun. When I visited Fair Up Summerland, the park was closed for rain half of the day, so when all the rides reopened, there were maybe 300 people in the entire park. So I rode this coaster over 25 times without getting off. And wow, it's easily the smoothest coaster I've ever ridden. This ride has snappy inversions with hang time, and sudden airtime moments. It just has it all. While it may not be that powerful, it is by far the most re-rideable coaster of all time, and I just want to go back and lap it all again. If you want to talk about a ride that surprised me, then look no further than Hyperspace Mountain. This ride begins with an upwards launch, and once you're inside the structure, you just zoom through pitch black darkness loaded with bank turns, snappy inversions, and even a stangle dive. This ride just blew me away, plus all the effects throughout the ride just made it that much better. I really wish I could have gotten more rides on this amazing underrated roller coaster. Now I know y'all are wondering why I'm putting a Gerstlauer Eurofighter over the likes of an Intamin Megalite and an RMC, but Flug von Novgorod is just that good. The start of this ride has such an epic show scene with some amazing music, and that first launch packs an insane punch, and the outdoor section has some great airtime and sudden bursts of intensity. Then once you go back inside after the vertical lift, dropping beyond vertical in pitch black darkness followed by a layout I can't even explain, is just one of the coolest coaster experiences out there. It absolutely blew my mind and was a huge highlight I was not expecting. Untamed is an amazing coaster. It just does what RMC does best. Fun, snappy, unique inversions and some quality ejector moments. That first inversion is so bizarre, and the ejector airtime on this ride is super good. Plus, that last roll is super unique, and it's one of the weirdest Heartline rolls I've ever experienced. While it may not be the best RMC, it's still one of the best roller coasters out there, and by far the best roller coaster at Walibi Holland. Fly is just such a stunning coaster. It's equally on-ride as it is just watching it off-ride. The whole start to this ride is just so epic, as it has a whole show scene before the launch, And after experiencing a launched flying coaster, it's just something so different, and I love it. The inversions are super snappy, but this ride just leaves you wondering where you're going. The theming is insane, and the ride itself is super smooth. It's an absolute blast, and I really wish I could have gotten more rides on it. Helix is absolutely insane. It's Mach's perfect coaster. The fact this ride just follows the terrain seamlessly is incredible enough, but it packs with it one of the best layouts of all time, loaded with unexpected inversions, snappy transitions, and incredible airtime. Plus, it's a very long ride that kicks off the second you leave the station. It's just a perfect coaster that had me in awe throughout my day at Liseberg. Helix alone is worth the trip out to Sweden. This coaster is amazing. Toutatis was my most anticipated coaster on the trip, and it did not disappoint. The theming on this ride is surprisingly really good, and man, what a layout this ride has. The first half is super snappy, and each launch delivers an insane kick. The airtime throughout this whole sequence is legendary, and after that top hat, the coaster is just non-stop action. The stall is amazing, the straight airtime hill is amazing, and the double up at the end is messed up. This whole ride is just lethal. It truly feels like a battle in the best way possible. Definitely the best coaster in France. Kondaa is the perfect mega coaster. It is arguably the snappiest and greatest first drop of all time. Every airtime hill on this ride delivers. It's really forceful on all those pullouts, and the speed and pacing on this ride are perfect. It does not lose its speed until it hits that brake run, and it just delivers the craziest sequence of elements possible in a minute-long experience. Just standing in front of this coaster felt like an out-of-body experience, let alone riding it. It's without a doubt one of Intamin's greatest creations yet. Tomorrowland's Ride to Happiness might just be the most chaotic roller coaster out there, and I am not complaining. The ride itself is insane, but the spinning just takes it to a whole new level. The Joja roll at the start delivers some insane hang time, and the launches actually have some kick to them. Every airtime moment just tries to fling you out of your seat, and the inversions while spinning just disorient you from start to finish. Even the second half of the ride is just as crazy as the first. It's truly the most out of control roller coaster you can find out there. Riding Kärnan at Hansa Park was a dream come true. The queue line for this ride is amazing, and the whole build-up and setup is so well themed that by the time you get on the ride, you're already heavily invested into this story. The ride starts with a pitch black pre-section and heads up the vertical lift. I won't say what happens, but the surprise that takes place on the vertical lift is amazing, and when you get to the top, you experience the greatest first drop of all time. My back row ride on this is a core memory, because of how good and relentless that drop was alone. And the rest of the ride is just sheer intensity loaded with high-speed transitions and powerful airtime moments. Plus, the inversion at the end just ends this ride perfectly. I already have high expectations for this ride going into it, and it just blew them all out of the water. Batman Gotham City Escape. Now, this ride exceeded all expectations. It was the first roller coaster I rode when I got to Europe, and wow, we kicked it off with a bang. I had such low expectations, and they were blown into another dimension. The launches on this ride have such kick, especially that first one, and the first inversion in Zero G stall has some of the greatest hang time I think I've ever experienced. The top hat is really good, and all the transitions on this ride are super snappy, and the airtime is crazy. There's so many hidden airtime moments on this ride that you just don't expect. Plus, the theming is really good as well. It's one of Intamin's best launch coasters out there, but the best launch coaster they've ever made was my favorite from the trip. Taron is incredible. There's not much left to say. The launches are super forceful, the airtime is super strong, and the transitions are super snappy. This ride moves so fast, and it goes through the elements with such speed that you don't know what's happening the entire ride. It's just mind-blowing how this coaster even fits in this space, as it just crosses over itself constantly. It's super intense, and it has the perfect length and incredible theming. It really has everything you want in a roller coaster. I was not expecting this at all before I rode it, but I can safely say Taron is the best coaster in Europe. Well, there we have it. My personal top 25 favorite roller coasters in Europe. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you guys agree with any spot on this list. If not, I understand. Everybody has different opinions. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to see some of my adventures from Europe, click the playlist right over here. As always, this is Hunter for Theme Park Hunting. I'll see you guys later, and never forget to follow the thrill.